Well, we're moving into a part two with Danny Scopes. I don't feel it's fair on this man to cut him off at an hour. So, see our high budget studio, his iPhone, his iWatch just gone off. But let's just take it back. So you've lost at Wembley. It's as I say, it's probably the pinnacle for anyone to coach, manage at Wembley. And then that summer, sort of saw you leaving the football club. Is that something that you know you thought was going to happen? Did you see that coming? How do you feel like that was a? Do you still stand by that decision? Like how have you progressed? Again, times a healer, right? From such a big high, how did you manage that real low?
Yeah, I think the issue we had really was that we probably went back too soon to try and plan for the following year. But football does that too. You ain't got a
Yeah,
lot of time to hang around in the off season, and because obviously the final was in May, and then you're sort of planning. COVID was on its way out, so you're sort of planning for that next season. And I think probably needed to give myself and probably the chairman and others involved probably need to give ourselves a little bit more time, because I think there was a lot of emotions after Wembley, and
yeah,
it was a real high and a real enjoyment. But also, once it's over and you've worked really hard for 6 weeks and over the course of 2 seasons to try and get there, and it was, I'm probably a little bit depressed with it in that way. I probably was like, oh, where do I go from now? Like, what happens now? And it was just done, the biggest day of your life had finished, and like coming back off holiday and going back to work, that was challenging, and probably the emotions were probably still high, and the downside of it was probably still in everybody's minds, rather than thinking where next, where's the positive. So we probably had conversations at Concord Rangers too soon, and the conversations were what the club needed to do. And I'd always respect any football club I'm at in terms of what they can do with budget and facilities and equipment or whatever it may be, and what beers they want to serve is entirely up to them, and have to respect that as a manager, and you have to work with that. And so I'd always be like that. But the football club couldn't probably commit to the levels that maybe I felt at that moment we needed to try and kick on again.
yeah,
And not in terms of always money, but just in terms of infrastructure, times of pushing and going forward, making the club, we got people involved. There was an interest in Concord Rangers, and I felt we needed to try and take it to the next step. And
yeah.
in my head, I had this brilliant ideas of, come on, let's do this, let's move forward. But I couldn't. And then we had the meeting, and I felt the meeting, in all honesty, probably didn't match that expectation that I had, and probably not demands that I had, more the expectation of where I felt I needed to go. And I probably felt personally, where do I take it? How can I achieve more than what I've just done? And I need other people to buy into it. And the football club just wasn't ready to do that. And things probably got a bit heated in terms of an emotional approach. And I know the chairman was under a lot of pressure with the COVID and a lot of pressure with the football club. And it probably was too early. I think if we'd have left it a few weeks, it might not have ended the way it did. But yeah, words were said, and I'm not afraid to say that, and we've made up, and we've spoken about that since, and I've got no issues with anybody or anything to do with Concord Rangers, and I love that football club, and I always call it my football club. And but I just felt it things happened, and I walked away, and I do feel it was the right decision. It's probably the right decision for the football club to go in a different direction, and I felt it was, for me personally, I needed to go and be a football manager for a team I was the manager of. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that, I always felt at Concord Rangers, I was the guy that had been there for a long time. I was the guy that played for him. I was the guy that done really well with the Cowleys. I've worked under Cowley, done well under myself, and there was a lot of history there. And I just felt that personally I needed to go and manage, and I never felt Ant Smith, and might be wrong, would sack me. I probably could get relegated the following season and probably still keep my job, because he was a close friend and a pal, and he knew I would be giving everything I possibly could for the football club. But I wanted to go and be a manager to a football club that treated me like a manager, and if I didn't perform and I didn't do well, I wanted the pressure of my job being at risk, and I felt that had to be my next move if I was going to stay into football. And I still think that's the right decision. I still think I made the right decision.
I think you've summarised it really well. As I say, you've had some success. You're on the crest of a wave. You want to kick on. I think looking at Concord, always, it's a great community football club. You're probably, as you say, worried about how far that can go in terms of your infrastructure, budget and everything else. So talk me through, once you've made the decision, or the decision had been made for you to come out of that football club, how then did you think about getting back in or going in somewhere else?
Yeah, I think it was important I didn't rush, and again, you don't learn about stuff until you step away, and I think stepping away for a little bit after that and not having to do a pre-season, not having to do that recruitment side was important. I could reflect on stuff and just did some more learning, and I thought COVID was really good for learning, wasn't it? Because you could listen, have more time at home, or everyone had a podcast out, didn't they? Or everyone had a chat out, and it was brilliant. So I used to listen to them all the time, still do, and it was really good. So I did a bit more learning. So I was quite comfortable in not being going straight into another job, and I felt I needed to wait and see what the right job would come. And at the time, there probably wasn't a lot of jobs at National South that I could probably get or I could take. So I thought I had to just be patient, and a couple of things come up. A couple of people asked me if I'd like to get involved, and I just said, no, I'm not going to do that at the moment. I'm going to go watch some games. I'm going to build up my knowledge of other teams and watch some sessions and other players, get a bit of a profile of players and a portfolio of players that I'd like to work with maybe, and did a lot of homework in that, and just enjoyed going around to non-league football and watching games, and without the pressure of, who wins mattered to me. So it was quite nice, and I had an opportunity to Haybridge Swifts. We had a meeting with Haybridge Swifts, and that was, went further discussions, and to be honest, first of all, I went for the Billericay job, in all honesty, and I got, I think it was Kev Watson got the sack and asked me in, and I had interviews at Billericay, and I felt quite confident that I was going to get that, and had a U-turn at the last minute and changed, went to someone else, which was their decision, and that's fine. I didn't get it. It disappointed me because I felt I could do well at that football club, and I felt they had the head space for me to grow and them to grow with me as well. And I didn't get it. I didn't get the job, so that's what disappointed me. And then Haybridge Swifts was one that we spoke to, and I felt that was probably going to come about, and they had a change of heart. They wanted to keep some ex-management within the management structure, and I wanted to bring my own in, so that wasn't possible, and they decided to go in a different direction, which was their choice as well. So I sort of had a couple and gone through them, and wasn't too fussed about the level, just needed somewhere that had headspace and room to grow, and then the opportunity. And I'd known Craig Johnson at Aveley Football Club for a long, long time. He was friends with my family and my dad before, and obviously knew a few people he knew and connections through playing there, and knew he was a good football man, been around a long, long time. And he reached out, and we'd obviously trained there as Concord Rangers, and I'd often seen him with Aveley on the other pitch, and I've seen the new stadium and the developments, and quite liked the football club. And he said, do you want to chat? We're making a change. We're going to sack the manager this week, and we're going to make a change, and we'd like you to maybe have a chat about that. So we met, and it was a good conversation. I felt they showed real good room for development and real good, hunger to be more successful. They wanted to get out of step 4 as quickly as they possibly could, and then establish themselves as a Isthmian Prem side and grow the football club, grow the ground, and got a really nice plot there of land, and they wanted to try and develop it. Even though they got a real good stadium, a new stadium, they wanted to go again, and just really liked it. I just thought, it's a good opportunity. I knew that they had a good team. I'd watched them a couple of times in beforehand, and I knew they had a good team. I just felt they needed a bit of structure, a bit of organisation that I felt I'd be good at, and I thought we could be successful. And fortunate enough, and it wasn't to do with money, it wasn't to do with contracts, and they said, if you want the job, it's yours if you want it, and didn't even discuss any finances or anything like that, or what the budget was really. I didn't know when I went in there. I just thought, no, I'm going to go for it and have a go. And like I say, I went in there, and great decision, I think, from me to go and take that, and them to hopefully feel the same way about getting me in there, and to go into a new dressing room, or that had a lot of allegiances to the last manager, because they'd had a bit of success the season before, playoffs and FA Trophy. They were the same year we were. They did well in the FA Trophy as well, and a lot of them didn't want the manager to go. They didn't want the manager to leave, so that it was up in arms. So I had to go into a dressing room that was probably against me to start with, and had to go back to what I knew about coaching, where you show people you care about them, then before you show them what you know. And I took that approach, that I'm here to help you guys. And I think a lot of people see a new manager coming in, he's got his own squad of players, he's got his own group, and I didn't have that. I couldn't go and get players from Concord because they were 2 divisions above, so that wasn't going to happen. So I wanted to work with this group that I had in front of me, and I told them that. I said, I'm not here to rip it up, I'm here to improve it, I'm here to add to it. I they'd look at me as a new signing, in that way, new signing to try and help you get over the line. And it took a bit of time, and there was a bit of a turmoil and a bit of resistance maybe from the group. But I think after time they realised I was a guy that wanted to help, and I had an idea of what they needed and helped them. And once they started seeing some results of them ideas and the quality we all had in the dressing room, it just went from strength to strength. And I remember standing in that room and I made a bold statement that someone always said to me, the first few words you say to people are the most important, aren't they? And I stood in that room in front of the lads and said, we're going to get promoted and we're going to catch Canvey Island, who I think they were probably about 12 points ahead of us at that moment. And I walked out that room and Lee Minchell, my assistant, went, "That's a bold statement, that." I said, "Well, we got to back it up now." And we did. We went on a march, and we lost 2 games, I think, within that period of time. And that season, out of 18, I think we won 16, lost 2, I think it was, and Coggeshall. Coggeshall was my first game in charge, which taught me a lot of lessons about what the team needed. And we went on a really good run, and we won the league with a game to spare and got promoted out of the North. So did it go better than I expected? Yeah, it probably did. Did we have a bit of luck on the way? Signed John Bentham from Southend United, who got me 16, 17 goals and 16, 17 assists in that season, and just complemented the rest of the team that we already had there. And we managed to do an amazing achievement, getting promoted straight away out of the North.
I think before I touch on the Averley sort of experience, I think you've touched on something that I don't think many people do. You've come out of a job, you've gone away, you've bettered yourself, you're looking at games, you're building your black book, you're trying to educate yourself. I do feel like in all levels of football now, people are so desperate to get back in that when people get fired or sacked or they leave a club, they very, very quickly now jump back in bed with somewhere else, and it just leads to a lot of managers on the treadmill going round and round, a lack of success for a lot of these managers, because they're, as I say, the fear of missing out means they want to jump back in, and that might not be the right club at the right time. So kudos to you for doing that. So I would say I watched you a lot in that Ryman North season. You had some good players. You, I think, carried on your ethos of being on the front foot, being aggressive, being a team that, teamwork shines through. Football's not all about budgets, but I think your rise to prominence at Averley, very much started in the Ryman North, because I've got a lot of affiliations at Averley. I love the place, love the chairman, love Craig. Played there myself at the end of my career. Had some success there myself. They're not always going to pay the most. As you say, I think you've built crowds massively over the last 3 seasons that you've been there, but didn't have always a massive fan base, a changed grounds. Do you look back as building the foundations? Do you think that Ryman North season has allowed you to have the success that you've had, because you come in and change that pathway so quickly? You caught Canvey, as you say, are very much ahead of that promotion season. So just what do you look back on that season now that I don't know is sort of fundamental to your success? Is that something that you look back on and pick things out? Is it that you had to come in and you lost your first game, that straight away you got to change the team? How have you carried on the learnings from that third season?
Yeah, like I said, I felt we had a good team, so I think there weren't a lot to change. It just needed some organisation and structure, and I'd like to think that's probably one of my strong points, and the skill sets were quite good, where I can set a team up and be defensively strong, but also play on the front foot and try and attack. So we could do that. I always think it's fine margins, isn't it? And we went on a real good run and managed to get over the line with 1 game to spare, so it looks like we won it comfortably, but there were some real tight games in there. I know we drew with cut draws within that run as well. At times drew with Basildon away, and there was a lot of moments within that
game.
Yeah, there was a lot of moments where it felt like it was slipping away, and it was tight, which is probably always going to be the case when you're fighting to win something. Sure. It's never going to be easy, and I think the learning I've done over the years and the success I'd had at Concord Rangers with that cup run and being part of it, and that probably held me in good stead because I didn't panic at any moment. I felt that what we were doing was right, and we just had to stick at it. I knew it was going to be competitive and ugly at times because Step 4 can be a bit like that, and there was lots of good teams and good players within it as well. So I just think being calm and patient with it as well. And I think that fled to the dressing room. And I think the dressing room environment they were close. They were very tight knit. They'd all been at the club for a long, long time. They didn't need me to be emotional with them. They didn't need me to shout and scream because they might have got against me in that. So I felt the calmness of us as a management team alongside the group of players and just instilling that you're good enough to win this league. I didn't put this group together. I've added to this group, but you're good enough to win this league and get us promoted. We can do it if we stick to these principles and we stick to that focus all the way through and ride out the bad times and the bad results that we, or the draws, cut the draws that we had or the closer games that we had. So I just think it was probably the experience I'd had previously and moving forward, and also the time away to reflect and the learning probably held me in good stead. And I'd learned a lot, I'd listened to a lot, and I wanted to try some new things, but I didn't feel that was the right time to try new things because, like I said earlier, there's a lot of information you get, a lot of information out there you want to go and put into a football club, but that weren't the time. And I knew that I didn't have to change a lot. There was a basics. It was very basic and wasn't no rocket science. And people would probably come in the dressing room and go, "Oh, it's not very impressive," and it probably wasn't. But it was what it was needed. I adapted to that situation and knew what the group needed and knew what the football club needed, and it worked for us. And confidently towards the end, when we got to them last 2 or 3 games, I knew we'd done it. I thought, yeah, this is us. I've got this, and we've got this, and we're not going to mess this up. So I think that. I think that just comes from a bit of experience and a bit of not going in and being the big I am, or look at me, I've managed at step 2, because I think it's bold to go from step 2 and then manage at step 4, isn't it? But I think that's a bold decision. But I went in there because I go back to my earlier days where I love football clubs and I love Wakering and Concord were proper football clubs with proper people, hard-working people. A lot of people doing stuff for nothing, and I could see that at Averley behind the scenes, and with Graham, the chairman, and Craig, the CEO, and the directors, and even the supporters. Like the growing fans, and the reaction I got to just winning a few games from them people was, and the reaction as it grew, it was just a pleasure to be part of, and I could see us developing what I'd had before in my own career as a player and my own career at Concord as a player and a manager, and it was just exciting. It just had that air of it, and I felt that we could do it. And I even finished that North season when we won promotion and thought, we can go the same way. We can have another go here. And I felt it would be tough to try and go up, but I honestly felt deep down if we got it right and we added the right personnel, we could go and compete at that level above. And didn't know much about that level above for some reason. I'd sort of missed it. I knew more about step 4 and 2 than I did about 3, but I thought if I can get this group and the environment we've got and the club and everything's working and we can keep rolling forward and not putting too much pressure on ourselves, I think we can be successful again. And obviously we went up, and I don't think we come out the top 6 probably other than 2 weeks of the season. So, which again is a credit to the football club as a whole and everything we were doing.
I think again that's a great bit of advice. Obviously you've been a player, I've been a player. You touched on there about coming into a changing room that might not be yours and keeping things very, very, very simple, streamlining a few things, up in maybe the organisation. But I feel like, again, in those situations, a lot of new managers come in and say, as you say, the big I am. Ultimately, players don't really give a toss about things like that. And also, they bombard them with all this new information. They're still trying to probably think about how they used to play, and then they've got all this new information. I think just keeping it very simple and tweaking the odd thing is, again, sort of a testament to your success. So you win Ryman North, you move into the Ryman Prem. Again, probably people are not looking at you to challenge. Obviously, you've got that inner belief yourself. How did you go about, because a lot of the boys, as you say, stayed together. Obviously, you tweaked it here and there. How did you sort of manage that challenge going up another level in non-league football?
Yeah, I felt I wanted to give the boys the opportunity to have a go at the level, and I asked honest questions at the end of the season, like, do you want to do it? Can you commit to it? Extra travel, extra time, maybe. Can you step up? And a lot of them wanted to have a go at it. We were fortunate because a lot of the boys were probably playing step 4 when they should really be step 3 because they were good enough to play step 3, but circumstances and overly attractive to them, or it happens, doesn't it? And so I felt we had a good core that could do that, and it just needed added to and tweaking to. I thought the principles we'd put in place from the previous season would carry us through as well, and I just thought that the teamship that we had in the dressing room and the focus we had in the dressing room would help us out. And always people always, it winds me up a little bit because people go, oh, you got momentum, haven't you? You got promoted, you got your momentum, and that's what helped you out last season. I think momentum gets you through the first couple of games, maybe as the unknown, but they don't carry you through a whole season.
Get found out, right?
You do, didn't you? And if you haven't got things right, you will get found out. And I feel disrespected when people say, oh, yeah, you've got momentum. Like even this year, when getting into the playoffs at step 2, people say, oh yeah, you've had the momentum from 2 promotions. Don't get me wrong, that helps and a winning character, but that don't carry you all the way through. And you have to have a bit more substance, and feel disrespectful for us as a football club and the group of players that we've got as well when people say that. But we did have a bit of momentum, but we also adapted really quickly. We played the first few games, I sort of realised some of the boys maybe weren't quite right for us, and I had to have some honest conversations, not, couple of months into the season more than anything, and adapt it. And I learned quite quickly what we needed and what type of player we needed to complement us and to compete at the level. And we managed to go out and sort of add them to it and get them in. I made some wrong decisions maybe at the start with a couple of signings that probably weren't quite up to it. So we had to adapt and made some mistakes, but felt we adapted really quickly and we got quite a settled squad quite quickly. And we were competitive, and we were, we had a way of playing, and I think that goes back to when you walk in somewhere as well, and you can only manage. Sometimes you go in, if you've got a team of units and big boys and target men, and you want to get it forward quickly into the box, and you play off a big centre forward and got 2 big centre halves, and everything goes forward quickly. If you go into there and you say, right, we're not doing that anymore, we're going to get it down and play, some of them boys might not be able to do that. That's not their skill set. That's why they're in the football club, and vice versa. If you've got a totally passing team and a real technical football team, you say, right, now we're going to hit the corners and hit the channels and play off set pieces, and they might not be able to do that either. So if you go in somewhere mid-season, work with what you've got, work out what their strengths are, and then try and improve them. Don't try and rip it up. If you're going to rip something up, you've got to try and do it in the pre-season, ain't you, really? And we had a focus, we had a way of playing that was, and I knew the way of playing wouldn't get us relegated and we'd be competitive. Did I realise it would probably get us in the playoffs? I wasn't quite sure, but the longer it went on, the more confident we got as a team, and more confident I got as a management team, or we got as a management team, the more I thought, yeah, we're in this, we could do this. And we were a real underdog at that time. There's Hornchurch and Bishop Stortford were big club, big budgets.
Yep.
So that is, and good players, a lot of step 2 players within both of their teams. We didn't have that. We had 1 or 2 maybe that had stepped up before on the level and come back down. But, it was a real big challenge. It was real tough. And obviously Canvey were in there as well. They'd come up through the playoffs, and they were, full credit to them because they went again and got into the playoffs again, and we beat them in the playoff semi-final. But the longer it went on, it felt like the season before. I felt like we had a structure and a way of playing, and we were tough to play against. No one wanted to play us. No one wanted to play against. We were fit, we were physical, we had strength, we had a bit of quality as well, and I felt that we could upset people, and I quite like that. I've had that all my career in terms of that underdog spirit, and that's not doing anyone a disservice, but to go and play Canvey away in front of 500 people, 600 people, whatever it was, everyone screaming, wanting you to lose, and then go and play Hornchurch away probably suits me. It's probably the environment I like to put myself into, and I feel like I can be successful in that environment and get a group of players that can be successful as well.
So I watch them games, and I would say you've touched on a few things that I would say your biggest strength is that even on bad days or dark days that I've seen game-wise for you, I'd never look at a Danny Scope side and say that they were shambles, they were ragged, not fit, not organised, not knowing what they were doing in both boxes. But before we touch on the sort of playoff success in the Ryman Prem, if you was to sort of describe your style and your sort of, as you say, sticking to your principles, how do you set the team up? How are you how are you wanting that team to play and impose themselves?
Yeah, I like to play attacking football. I like to get the ball forward. I think we've got to entertain, haven't we? We've got to try and make the crowd cheer, and you want your oohs and your ahs from your supporters, don't you? And you want the ball in the opposition half more than you do in your own half, don't you? Of course you do. And I like to get the ball wide. I like to get the ball in the box, and I like to think adaptable. And I probably don't have a set playing style like, well, we're going to play this way or that way. And I like to think we do our own work on the opposition, and we try and adapt to suit, because sometimes your playing style might not suit the opposition, or they might counteract you, and you can't get your success. And they're a high pressing team, and you're trying to play out. They might be very good at that, and you can't play out, and you chances are you lose the ball. The chances are they score, and you might lose the game. So I always think it's being adaptable, and I think I try and get a team that can mix it a little bit in terms of that. I like to be athletic. I think you have to have hard working people, and I always say I like wide people that tackle. If you're going to play wide for me, you've got to run and you've got to tackle. And I always say that to my wideys now, and they laugh at me. And if they make a tackle in training, I'm like praising them, patting them on the back more than if they get across in the box, because that's their job. And I like physicality, because I was a physical player myself. So I like size, and I like to be able to be effective from set pieces and balls into the box. And some people say that's a bit old school now, but it's not, is it? Why? If it was old school and it didn't count, they'd cut the corners off. When we wouldn't play corners, we'd play goal kicks or throw-ons. Or it's part of the game, isn't it? So you have to be good at them parts of the game, and you can win games in different ways. And we always say we're doing our pre-season now, and we're trying to get these messages into new players and realign with the existing players that we've got. But you have to find a way to win games of football, don't you? And you want to try and win, and sometimes that can be, especially playing fast, attacking football and looking to play on the transition, play on the counter attack, can look a bit messy at times, and I accept that, and I even watch it myself and think, we need to tidy up. When we've got lots of quantity but not much quality, and I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to get Averley Football Club to have more quality than quantity at times, and that's our focus. But that comes with being able to sign better players and players adapting and different styles of players and strength in squad and bits like that, which relate to budget, and you have to work within your means. And so I think, as in a playing style, play forward, run forward, get the ball in the box, get the ball wide, get shots off, get opportunities if shots lead to corners, set pieces and free kicks and stuff like that, and focus on all them elements. And a bit of individuality as well. Players have to perform, don't they? And I think if you can have a good defensive structure, an organised defensive structure, then I think the attacking play can look after itself. Sometimes you can work on it, but that's where the flair players come in. That's where the match winners come in, don't they? And then the quality comes in, and probably they play with more free. We like our attacking players to play with freedom, but we like our defensive players to play with structure and organisation.
Sounds good. So, you surprised a lot of people, as you say. You didn't really find yourselves outside the top six in a Isthmian Prem or Ryman Prem, whatever you want to call it, in that second season. Talk me through the playoffs. I went to both games. I went to the game at Canby and the game at Hornchurch. Probably, as you say, going to be the underdog in both. I would say that the Canby game was a bit of not one for the purists. Which sometimes happens, don't it, in playoffs? No one wants to lose. How did you sort of work your way through those two games to victory?
Yeah, in the build-up, I wanted to be away. I was desperate, and probably not our home fans wouldn't want me to hear me say that. And we've got a lovely facility and a lovely pitch, but I wanted to be away. I wanted to go away because I felt that the pressure would be on them away from home, and so I wanted to finish in that sort of sixth place and have both games away, because I felt that was our best route to the final. The Canvey game, I'm surprised you don't ask for your money back, because I would want my money back if I watched that, because I thought it was atrocious, and we played our part in that. And and I think the challenge there was Canvey were very technical. They like to get the ball down and play. I think Brad had a real good side that year who passed the ball really well, and they played a shape and a formation that caused teams loads of problems, really hard to deal with. And
it weren't a great pitch anyway.
No, it was tough.
Time of the season.
Yeah. And I think we played them in the league a little bit earlier, and we'd adapted our formation to try and counteract their formation, and we actually got the better of them in that game. I think we won 2-0. and we dominated the midfield in that game. And I thought, oh, right, we've got them now. Like, we know what to do. And then, but I sort of semi-expected them to change how they play, and I think that probably went against them a little bit, because I think where we dominated them in that first game we played, I think in the second game, and I did speak to Brad about this, I thought they added an extra boy in midfield. They went a bit more aggressive, a bit more physical, tried to match us up and tried to win that battle, and went away from their footballing style a little bit. So where you had us being dogged and physical and load in the middle of the pitch, they did the same, and I think that's what ultimately resulted in a poor game of football. And we had a couple of injuries that day, which helped us as well. But we had Jamie Dix play for us that day. He'd run the marathon like the day before or 2 days before, and Connor Witherspoon played with 2 ankles. And I thought, God, if we get through this, I'm not sure how we're going to get through the next one. But I just had a feeling that it went to extra time, and Jonathan North made some great saves in the penalties, and I just felt the pressure was on Canvey because it was at their ground, and I think that played a big part in it. And I think the game before, in terms of them trying to adapt and compete with us physically, and I think they neutralised us physically, but then that's why it went to a draw, and that's why it went to penalties in the end. But it was very tight. Could have gone. It's small margins in it, and I look back to Barkingside away, that when we won the Essex Senior League to get promoted. If that hadn't have happened on that day, they scored a disallowed goal, and we went up there and scored 1-0, got promoted out of Step 5. If that hadn't have happened that day, me, Danny Cowley, Concord Rangers might have been a whole different story, a whole different history. And I look at that moment at Canvey, and that probably was one of them moments as well. If Canvey had probably won that penalty shootout, then they might be sitting there talking about National South right now. So,
as you say, fine margins, but in them games, I think it's always more no team wants to lose. As you say, they sort of matched you up in midfield, but you found a way to win. And then, as you say, final, Hornchurch, big non-league club. They've been up and down the pyramid, sort of had money, lost money, found themselves, back up again this season. But again, how did you navigate that? Big team, big following. They've always had a very, very good budget. I think everyone knows that in non-league. Lots there at their place. How did that go?
Yeah. I thought tough place to go, and they got good fans, quite volatile, quite aggressive, which is good, and we like. And I was really pleased with our attendance on that day. I thought we took loads. We got shoved right in the corner behind the dugout, didn't we? But we got a really good picture of our fans celebrating, and and you see the bodies, and the numbers that we actually took was really good. So full credit to them, because I don't think we'd have got over the line maybe late on without their sort of cheering and screaming us on. It was amazing, because they were
family and friends.
A lot of family and friends. Yeah, people brought their old families and distant relatives and stuff, which helps us as well. And I think the fact that they were right behind the dugout was annoying at first, because they were miles away from the game and stuck in a corner. I don't think they had a drink station or anything, bless them, but it was like we had I always ask our subs to be vocal and aggressive and keep the team going and motivate, and I always try and motivate from the sideline as well. But I felt I had 500 people motivating from behind me as well. It was lovely, so it gave us a real good energy on the day, and I thought we played really well on the day. And even up until the sending off, they had Louis Spence got sent off within the second half, I think it was. But even up to then, I thought we were controlling them. They had a few opportunities and long distance chances, and we'd have a couple of opportunities. Got our goal obviously in the first half, and I felt we were in a good place. Sergio Delusu come back into the team, and Jamie Dix missed out unfortunately, and I moved Ollie Coker out to the right hand side, left hand side, which he didn't really want to play there, but I knew he could affect and get in the spaces and cause problems, and his set pieces were really good, and Sykesy up top would cause their centre half loads of problems. And I thought we won the midfield battle that day. I thought Connor Witherspoon, Garrett Kelly and Sergio Delusi dominated their midfield, and thankfully our back four was Tom Stevens, Ryan Scott, Harry Gibbs and Jason Ring just defended for their life, and with the experience of Jonathan North behind them that have been a big part of that campaign. And I knew once we went 1-0 up, and I think they come back and equalised, but sending off, I thought, we're in this. It's going to be us. And I felt again the pressure was on them massively. I think they'd fouled the season before, which had played its part. So their challenge was to get up this season. They'd lost in the playoffs to Cheshunt, wasn't it, the season before? And I just felt everything was stacked against them, and we could go in there with no real pressure on us, because we would overachieve by making the playoffs. We'd overachieve by making the playoff final, and getting promoted the year before as well. So it was a free hit for us, and I always remember in the dressing room at half time and 1-0 up, and you'd expect you to be motivating and shouting and saying, "Come on, stick at it, we got this," and lots of like loud voices. But we just sat around the dressing room like real calm. I sat with the players and the coaches, and we just spoke about a couple of things that we could tweak and change, and I just looked around at their faces, and there was almost smiles, like they were enjoying the moment, and I felt that's what I want. That's what I wanted to enjoy this moment, like being in the Lions Den sort of thing. And I could see a real calm. We had some good characters and some tough characters in there, and even the young lads were just. It looked like we were enjoying it, and I remember walking out the dressing room saying to Glenn, "We got this. We got this. They got this." And I think we played the second half with that sort of control and that confidence, and managed to get over the line.
So most managers, or a lot of managers, go through their career not winning a title. Obviously, you've won 2 titles in 2 years, and no disrespect to the Ryman North and the Ryman Prem, the Eastman Prem, Eastman North. You're now going into the Conference South, without being disrespectful to anyone at Aveley or yourself. Every probably league and tipster and betting site had you to finish last. There's a big change in geography. There's a big change in the loan market, players that you can get, budgets. There's full-time football clubs at that level. How was that summer from Isthmian Prem to Conference South, and how did you sort of plan that out? Because as I say, it is a big step, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, my initial plan was, and to be fair, we followed it through. Really, was to stick with what we had, and I felt these boys have been really good for this football club, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to be a Step 2 player. And there were some that I didn't feel it would work for, and I had to be honest with them and say, look, I think this is your time, sort of thing. I don't want to kill you, and you're not playing. Part of football, tough conversations, but I felt it was right for them, and they probably disagree at the moment, but probably agree with me maybe now, and looking at where they go in their careers. But I wanted to take I wanted to keep that core with me, because I felt we were strong as a group, and some couldn't commit to it, couldn't do it, so we lost a couple, so we had to sort of invest and go from that. I think when you get in the National South, and I think where Aveley's slightly different to Concord in the National South is probably location, and Concord was always tough to sign people.
Really tough.
Dan would always say that in his period, and in my period as well, and other managers. Location's tough. People, really, Concord, like they look on the map and it's a challenge, and if you haven't got massive budget, you can't tempt them with finances, so you have to be careful what you get. And sometimes people end up at Concord Rangers because of and places like that, because of they've had disappointments in other places. There's nowhere else to go, so arm round the shoulder and go again, which they do a lot. But I felt location at Aveley was good, because we
by the bridge,
tap into everywhere really. Everyone knew it, everybody knew about it, everyone had played some kind of game there or had some moments there, so I think that quite well. So it just opened up a bigger transfer pool, but then that comes with its own problems, because there's a lot of players thrown at you, and a lot of agents now are reaching out where they don't really at Step 3 and 4, and got this lad. So there's a lot more decision making to thing, and I'm quite hot on recruitment in terms of character and personnel and getting the right people in the building. So I had to make a lot of decisions in that, and probably got a couple wrong, I think, and right. And I was fortunate. I managed to get John Benton. He had a few disappointments at Southend, and he wanted to come out. Couldn't give him a contract because of the embargo. So I knew John from our loan at Step 4, and I said to him, "Come in and help me, and I'll help you." And ultimately, that's what happened. And he come in, and I managed to sign Matt Rush, who Braintree didn't really want, so he come in as well, and he proved to be very, very good for us. Charlie Hughes come in, so all of a sudden we're adding some bigger names maybe, and some more quality into what we wanted to do, and all of a sudden the squad looks a bit more competitive to go in at Step 2 and compete, and still, but them players coming enabled us to keep the core of what we had before coming through as well, so it kept the principles the same. So I was quite pleased with what we had going in. And did I feel that we had a good pre-season? We looked quite good. Did I feel we'd start as well as we did? No, I probably didn't.
Unbelievable start.
I'm probably surprised. I probably actually stood back at times and thought, bloody hell, where's this come from? Because we were really good. We were really good at that first period, and real strong. We were looked to threat. We were attacking. We'd done well in the cup games. We'd been flying, and I actually stepped back at times, thought, God, where's this come from? And people come up to me and say, oh, wow, you're playing some brilliant stuff. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that was my coaching and that was my management. It just clicked. It just worked, and the group worked together, and it was brilliant. It was such a great start, and then obviously the vultures come in, which happens, and it's part of the game, and you have to accept that. And I'd never stop people moving up the levels. And at Averley Football Club, and as Danny Scopes, I want people to come in and want to be successful, so I want them to get picked up, and providing they do what's right for Averley Football Club when they're in the building, then I've got no issues with them moving up the levels, got no issues with them doing well. So, obviously we lost Matt to Maidstone, or John Benton to Solihull Moors, and Matt to Maidstone, which were great moves for them as footballers, and we got a few injuries and a few suspensions, and it all started to go south a little bit, which was challenging, but we didn't panic. The good start would give us a little bit of confidence, a bit of breathing space. Yeah, if you make a bad start and then have bad second period or second block of games, and we just picked it off 10 games at a time, because if you look bigger than that, then you look further down the line and you look at all the full-time teams and the big clubs in there, the big football clubs, it can be really tough. So we just picked it off 10 games at a time. We just looked at 10 games and tried to do better in every 10 games we did, and ultimately that's what we did, and it seemed to fly by. And each block of 10 games we kept picking up, and we'd have a meeting after 10 games and go, look, well done, this is good, this culminates. If we carry on this form, we could finish in the playoffs. If it's this form, and we just kept it simple, really.
Did you feel like everyone was waiting for you to fall over? I think this is not going to last. They're going to. I think
so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we had to. It's never easy recruiting within a season either, is it? So we were trying to recruit people to come in and help us, and some people with experience come in, some didn't work, and we managed to get a couple in late on, Ars Kresnicki and Raz Coleman, that come in who had played the level, bit of experience, which helped us, and the loan market helped us as well. Ryan Carr and a couple of Ipswich boys come in. Ryan Carr come in at a real pivotal time for us and give us a bit more of a second wind and an energy, and I did feel at that moment that we were probably going to slip away, and the playoffs top 10 finish was probably the what I was thinking, but we went again, and it's a motto that we have and something we're going to take into the season. Just keep going again and again, and never got too disappointed when we lost, because you go Yeovil lose 3-0, why would you be disappointed? You're not expected to go and win, so you want to win, and we give everything we got, but we have to put it into perspective afterwards, and then we were really good on a Monday night at home, had a real good record, beat Maidstone, drew Yeovil at home, beat various other clubs in there, so we were just chilled with it, really, and we just ticked off simple, sounds really boring, but we had a target of 15 wins. We got the 15 wins, and pressure was off. 15 wins, pressure was off, and how far can we take it? And we've done that over the last season as well, and just keep ticking off the wins, and
I think I remember you must have been right up first or second. You got to 40 points, you texted me saying at least we're not going down. Like you was very calm about it. Well, I think you've touched on a few things there. I think for me, over the last few years, you've given a great platform for young players to come and showcase their skills. As I say, Benton got to move to Solihull Moors, Matty Rush now Ebbsfleet, Maidstone. You've got the boys, 2 or 3 boys that have gone Sutton this year. You've given people a platform, but just a quick thought on that. As you've gone up the level, is it, we were talking about earlier about education and improving yourself. Would you say the loan market and working on contacts and being around sort of clubs higher up the pyramid and in the EFL to try and work those contacts to get a few young boys out to you?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Probably did it more at Concord Rangers, and I've done at Averley really in loans. We took quite a few at Concord Rangers, which really helped us in terms of supporting the budget, because they come out a little bit cheaper at times, or just on expenses, so it helps with your budget, keeps your squad high. I haven't probably done it as much at Averley as I thought I would, and we've probably cherry picked the odd one or two, and Ollie Coker was a big one for us at Step 3 that come in from Southend and done really well and really helped us. And then last year we had a right back that come in from Stevenage for a little bit as cover, and then one from Ipswich, but unfortunately done his elbow and was out, had to go back. But right back we had was suspended, so we had cover there. And then we probably only really, we took a boy from Gillingham come in, and Joe Gabode, and good young lad who gave us some good times in his 2-month loan period, and covered well for us and backed us up and was really important for us. And probably Ryan Carr was the best one from Ipswich, who come in and just added some energy to the team when he probably got an extra 10% out of everyone else because of his running, and we were a fit team, an athletic team, but we're probably hitting a bit of a wall because it's a big season in National League South, and you've got to look at the number of games. It's very demanding, especially if you've not played it before as well, like some of our boys hadn't their first season. So yeah, I think the contacts is important in it, and yeah, you've got to be able to pull people in when you need it, especially when you're working with a lower budget maybe, and you haven't got, we can only really carry 17 players probably in the squad. I can't afford to carry 24 players and pay them all because it just don't work. The maths don't work, and we could, but we'd have to pay everyone else a lot less, and that doesn't work. We all know how it works. And so I think having them contacts in there and getting the right people, and the benefit is the higher you go up in terms of non-league football, probably the better loans you get offered, really, isn't it?
So you're not getting the first year scholars anymore, are you?
No, you're getting better players. You're getting boys that want to come in, and if they do well at National South, Avery Football Club, and they go back to their football club, they're in with an opportunity of being in and around their first team or getting a push to that. So it does help, and and we have to utilise that. It's just having the contacts and being ready to be able to take them. And the boys want to come in. I think it's good development for the boys as well to be able to come in. So it works for all parties.
So I think you touched on it after getting to the FA Trophy. Obviously, you done amazingly well. Third year at Averley, 2 promotions, getting into the playoffs at Conference South. Big league, a lot of money in it, a lot of big, teams that have been further up the pyramid, full-time teams. Obviously, you made the playoffs eventually. You went out in that first round of playoffs. But how are you going to manage? You spoke about at Concord a bit after the Lord Mayor's show, right? You get to Wembley, and people's aspirations change. Maybe yourself or the club. How are you going to manage that this season, where it's always harder second time round for a start, and obviously, you talk about the vultures. A lot of clubs have watched you last season and taken some of your players. How are you going to manage that next season?
Yeah, I think the challenge we will probably have is that we'll probably earn people's respect, haven't we? Because we could be competitive last year. So last year, and momentum, as people said before, that winds me up a little bit. But last year, a bit of that surprise package, and probably with everybody writing us off, other teams probably wrote us off to start with, and we probably surprised a few people. So we gained their respect, and I know people took us a lot more serious maybe towards the back end of the season, or the middle to the end of the season. So I think we've earned respect, so people are going to want to come and be competitive against us. So that makes it more challenging. I think we have to be realistic and realise what we overachieved last year, and that's not a disservice to my players, that's not a disservice to the football club. That's just trying to be honest with it, really. And we overachieved in what we did, especially as a newly promoted team in that division. And to try and do that again is going to be really, really tough in what I would say is a tougher division this year on paper. So far, we don't know. In terms of finances, what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people having a go and investing good money into budgets, into their squads. So good squad depth and bits like that are going to play a part. So I know it's going to be really, really tough. And so we have to go back to that sort of underdog mentality. We have to go into that mentality saying that we want to overachieve. We've got a good, young, hungry team. And we're going to try and do our best game by game. And someone asked me the other day, they said, the fixtures are out any sort of any periods you see that really tough games? And I said, yeah, from August the 10th to April the 29th, whatever it is, that's what I look at, because they're all tough, and it's a real competitive league, but you have to ride with the punches, and there'll be moments where we struggle. There'll be moments where we lose games of football, and we might lose 1, 2, 3 on the bounce. It'll be how we react to them and how we deal with them as a management team and as a group of players, and not get too downhearted, because you can quite easily flip that round and go and win a couple of games you don't expect. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging, and expectation will be higher across the football club and across the football pyramid because of what we've done. But I'm a realist, and I have to realise what we're doing, and I think we're better off going, let's let's not get relegated. Let's get 40 points. Let's get as many points as we can on the ball, because Averley Football Club needs to establish itself ideally as a Step 2 football club. It doesn't want to go up and down. It doesn't want to keep going up and down the levels. And if we want to grow, we've got to establish ourselves. So anything above that bottom four will be an establishment and another opportunity to go again. And I think the minute we go away from thinking like that, with the minute maybe we lose probably one of our biggest strengths. Sure. And I think I've seen other teams do that before. They have a good season and expectation from management comes out, say, play us this year then because we done top 10, and they don't work like that. So I think we have to go game at a time. We have to go underdog mentality. We have to go, let's try and survive, let's try and stay up, and we know in a dressing room that we've got good hungry players and we can achieve something. Different forms of success, isn't there? And we have to be respectful of that.
No, I think that totally makes sense. As you say, the biggest thing for Averley right now is to establish themselves as a Conference South team. I think, talking about one of your, rivals from previous campaigns, I've always felt over the last few years, Hornchurch, very, very good Ryman, Isthmian Prem side, and then they go up and look at a sort of an average Conference South side, and they'll probably have that challenge again this year. So we're up to date. We've moved to, obviously, through your playing career, through your managing career. We spoke about this Averley journey, not as a friend, but more as a manager. I've probably been someone who shouted your name from the rooftops over the last couple of years. I even said it to Graham and Craig last year a couple of times at Averley. I'm very surprised that someone hasn't come and taken Danny Scopes to a full-time football club. What are your aspirations as we look to close out? What are you looking to do as a manager, as a person? Could you, with your own business, could you make the commitment to full-time football? Where do you see yourself in a couple of years?
Yeah, I want to keep winning games of football, and I enjoy being successful, and like I said, different types of success, and I think that's probably what drives me on a little bit, the fear of not being successful or not doing well for people. And I like to see people enjoy their football. I like to see people smile, and I like to see fans celebrate their, I've been a fan of non-league football club, and I like to see them supporters enjoy their football club and enjoy their moments. And it's tough at times, but want them to have more successes and more good times than bad times. But my fear of failure is probably something that maybe drives me on to work harder and keep pushing as much as I can, along with people around me that support me and around my management team and other people that help me, and yourself as well, talking to you. I've got real good support and real backup, and I want to keep pushing. I want to keep being successful. At the moment, I see Averley Football Club as a football club that's got headroom and headspace and room Agreed, to grow. And talking to the chairman and the committee and the director and CEO, Craig, that they want to move forward, and there's plans in place to keep moving forward. So I like that, and that excites me. So at the moment, I'm comfortable with that. And providing that carries on and I can keep being successful them, and they want me to be their manager, then I see that as my future at the moment. I'd be lying if I said I'd like to get up every morning and go and manage a football club, rather than what I do now in terms of manage a business, manage a family and manage a football club. And I can't get rid of the family, but I'd love to be able to do a bit more time with the family and manage a football club full time. And I was never good enough to be a full-time football player. Could I be good enough to be a full-time manager? I'm not sure at the moment. A lot of things would have to line up probably for that to be able to happen. And I've had a couple of inquiries, I've had a couple of offers, and I got offered a couple of jobs, and I've turned them down because at the moment my loyalty's at Averley Football Club because of the reasons I said. But like I say, I want to be successful. I want to do well, and only get one crack at it, don't you? And I want to try and. I'll probably regret, as I said earlier, maybe not pushing myself as a player to go up through the levels and try myself at a harder level, and probably my issues with discipline probably held me back there as well. But I don't want to have that regret as a manager. I want to have that, confidence to do that. But at the moment, my loyalty is with Averley Football Club, and as I said, a lot of things would have to stack up and line up, and the right opportunity, and whether that be for me personally and my family, whether that be financially as well, because that's really important, that financially we have, I look after my family as well, and obviously through my business as well. So if things could stack up and line up, then it would be something that maybe I'd want to attend. But at the moment, Averley Football Club's where I'm at, and I'm looking forward to what is going to be a real tough National League South season.
Appreciate the honesty. Also, just love how level-headed you are about everything and just open to the challenge. So we want to close this out, getting near to the second hour. So pick coaching or player, mate. What do you want to pick?
Playing.
So some just quick fire questions to finish. What would you tell your younger self if you could go back and give some advice?
Control my discipline. Don't fight other people's fights, maybe, because that's probably what got me in trouble on the pitch and resulted in yellow cards and red cards at the time.
Is there anything you wish you knew back then that you know now as you get older, more experience?
Yeah. I think it's not till you sort of get into the management and now with the access to everything, you realise what you don't know really back then. But
Sure.
I'm not sure, as I said, I'm not sure that's a bad thing, because I think people overcomplicate stuff and, you know, we all want to do it like the elites do it, but we're not working with the elites maybe,
Sure.
or we're not got the time or the assets to do that, and we're not good enough to maybe do that as ourselves. And I'm just put myself in that bracket as well. So, what was the question?
Just anything that you wish you knew, really.
Yeah.
It's always good to look back. I think as you're older, you're told a lot of stuff when you're a young player, and as you say, you're a bit sort of headstrong and don't take anything in. What do you kind of think that?
Yeah, maybe just, like I said, take myself emotionally out of the game really, and be able to play for 90 minutes a little bit more, you know, controlled in what I was doing. I maybe would have got longer on the pitch or some more, you know, better quality on the pitch as well. I just think,
I think that comes with age anyway, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely did. And, you know, in that last period at Concord, I matured and as a player, and learnt a lot and learnt how to look after myself maybe rather than being reckless. And yeah, I just think I wish I'd listened to a couple of people maybe a bit earlier rather than just follow suit of what I should be doing, and didn't develop myself probably outside of that pathway I was on.
So on that, as I say, you've got two kids playing good level of youth football now. What is something that you are, you know, punching to them daily about what they should be doing football wise?
Yeah, just be resilient. I think football's changed in terms of physical output. You've got to be able to run. You've got to be strong. You've got to be resilient in terms of being able to put games together one after the other.
Consistency,
yeah. Because if you're not consistent i.e. technically, tactically consistent or physically consistent, then you probably get dropped out of the team. That's why you would lose your place. I think the most consistent players are the boys that make the most best decisions as well. So you stay in a team and environment. So just roll with the punches. I think be resilient. I say to my boys, just keep swinging. Because, you know, just keep going, because football can be real tough, and it's probably sometimes I've had a lot of success over my career, but there's been a lot of tough periods within that as well, and in playing and managing, and you have to accept that, and you have to roll with the punches. And if your face don't fit, you might not play. If someone comes in and they're better than you might lose your place. And don't mean the end of your journey. That don't mean the end of your career. That means you just go on a different pathway, and you just keep swinging and swinging. And if you're good enough and you're dedicated enough, then I always believe you'll get the success and the rewards that you deserve at the end of it.
Brilliant, mate. Last couple. You've picked playing, so what was the best team that you played in?
I'd probably say, and I've had some real good teams and some real good moments over the years. I'd probably say that 2007, 2008 Concord Essex Senior League winning team, because, like I said, it just resembled my old career and what I loved about non-league football. And I think anybody of my age and my era and around that would probably, if they were in that environment, would probably say the same. And you've played in teams like that as well, haven't you, over your career at same levels? And it was just special. It was special. It was a band of brothers, so to speak, and a group of people that just all had each other's back and went on and achieved something that changed the course of history probably for Concord Rangers.
100%. Good team, good players, good characters. As you say, it was a proper team that. And then just to finish, give me a quote that you live by. You know, if you've got one that you live by both in and out of football, if you've got one for each, I'd just like to finish on a quote that you live by or something. I know that was a very big thing at Concord, but is that something that, you know, you live by now at Aveley? You've got something different at home? Just be intrigued to finish on that point.
Yeah. The one I use in pre-season quite a lot is winners, not whingers, because, you know, I don't want people moaning. I want people to want to win, and things don't always go hunky-dory, whether that be in-game, in session, and, you know, you might be doing a rondo and you might lose the ball, and the coach gives it to the other team and you think, hold on, that's my thing, and then you stand and whinge about it. But I don't want that. I want winners. I want that person that reacts and goes and gets on the ball as an example. So don't whine about it. Get on with it. I think that's massive for people. You know,
Yeah.
Deal with it. Deal with the disappointments. Get on with it. Go again. Go again. Go again. I believe in that. And one I nicked from Cali actually is look in the mirror, not out the window. And I know a lot of people maybe use that, but that just, for me, that means just look at yourself first. Just reflect on yourself and see whether you've got your house in order first. See what you can do to develop yourself. Well, a lot of players nowadays and people in general will look out the window trying to find blame in other people, and kids will come and say, yeah, but he didn't pass me the ball, Dad. Oh, yeah, he didn't do this, Dad. He didn't do that, Dad. And or players say, yeah, but he's not doing his job, so I can't do my job. And that might be true at times, but make sure your house is in order first, and look in that mirror. And if you can look in that mirror and say, look, I've done everything I possibly could to the best of my ability, might not quite have made it today, I might not quite been good enough in certain areas, then I think you can leave the room, or you can leave that day happy, can't you? But if you start looking for other people to blame, then I don't think you've not taken responsibility for that yourself. So I think that's something to look at. People are very quick, and you see it in dressing rooms, don't you, half time? Yeah, you do this, you do that, and hold on a minute, make sure your house is in order first. And I think that's something I learnt from being a player manager, because playing and managing, you have to have your house in order.
100%.
You can't come off the pitch and say you didn't mark him at a corner when you've just let you let the centre forward peel off your shoulder and you're 1-0 down. It's so that helped me there. So I think, look in the mirror first. I think that's really important.
Mate, absolute pleasure. We've spent 2 hours walking around Southend Rugby Club. It's boiling hot. First episode. I just think everything that you've heard today just sums this man up. Very resilient, great drive to succeed, very level-headed. There's a lot more than meets the eye. A lot of homework, a lot of dedication to his craft. And again, I've said it for a long time. This man should be, or there'll be clubs looking at this man to manage full time, whether higher up the pyramid or in the EFL soon enough. So, Scopesy, thank you, mate. Been an absolute pleasure. Top man. All the best.